In this video, we talk about The Mummy's Curse. This is a non-standalone expansion for the game Clank, the original Clank, not the Clank in Space. In this non-standalone expansion, the players will explore a pyramid or a sphinx, and from there they will go down into the dungeon and try to steal stuff and get away with it. This is as the Mummy's Curse title promises. This is a game in which there will be a mummy that will chase after the players. In a sense, there will also be times when the players will chase after the mummy. They want to catch it and slap it in the face to get some advantages. So there are interesting things here. So you have a new board, new cards, some new components, and a couple of new rules. Anyways, I will not get into the details of how you play Clank, because if you're watching a video about a non-standalone expansion, I take it that you probably have the original game or you tried it, in the case that you know what Clank is about. So without further ado, let's take a closer look at The Mummy's Curse. The most interesting and most attractive new element that you find in this expansion is definitely the board. You get a double-sided board with two different places that the players will explore and they'll try to loot and get out of alive. Here we have a pyramid. You start from up there, you go down the pyramid, you enter the depths, and down here you have places where you can find artifacts, mysteries, there are the crystal caves, pretty much the kind of places and connections that you know from the basic game of Clank. Actually, there is a new type of connection, but we'll talk about that later. The other side of the board, you have the expert map. This is the standard map. On the other side, you have the expert or the masochist's map. The two things sometimes are synonyms. Here you have a nice sphinx. Down here you have the depths, and this is a veritable maze of one-way connections, really dangerous passages. Starting from here, where you immediately have to deal with a locked door, so you're forced down this bottleneck here, and there's immediately a monster waiting for you. And so, especially on this map, going first can be a good advantage because you're gonna start looting stuff, and before the bottleneck opens up, well, the players will have to go through several places. Now, a new game element, very important, is the curse. The curses are represented by these tokens here. There are many game effects that will give you curses and not so many that will remove curses. Each curse is simply worth a penalty, simply indicates a penalty of -2 victory points at the end of the game. And heck, victory points are what you need to win the game, so losing those is bad. Another interesting element, which is also connected with the curses, is the mummy. The mummy is represented by this game piece here, and the mummy can be in one of the 4 areas that the map is divided into. See, this is one area, here we have another one, here another one, and here another one. I wonder if you can even see the difference. The difference is not very easy to tell. Can you tell here? There's a slight change. Each area has a triangular space where the mummy is physically placed, but the mummy counts as being everywhere in that area, in that region. And when you move the mummy, you use this like a really fun looking 4-sided die. In case the mummy moves, for example, now the mummy moves to this area, as indicated by the snake. But when does the mummy move? When you attack it. The mummy is one of these recurrent monsters. If you're in the same region with the mummy, you can spend 2 sword symbol to attack it, and you collect 4 coins and take a curse token. Or if you attack it with 3 swords, you can remove half of your curses rounded up. After you attack it, you also move it, and that's when you roll the die. Now, if by moving the mummy enters an area where there are any players, the players that are in the same area will take a curse. So if there's a player here, the mummy just moved there. That player takes the curse. The mummy may not move in this case. If it stays there, doesn't give curses to players that are already there. It is only when it actually physically moves that it will spread curses around to the other players. The map and the mummy really are the main new element. Well, and the curses too, and the curses too. Then you have some new treasures, artifacts, that kind of stuff. Another interesting element is new cards. Now, when I played the game, I shuffled the new cards into the main deck, and now I extracted them so I could show them to you. I may have forgotten some of them. Some may still be in the main deck, but still, I think you'll get a sense of what you get here. Gems. Different gems, let you draw a card, and then we have also a series of thematically appropriate things, pretty much looters that go down, and this one is pretty cheap. You discard it to get 2 coins. This is a little more interesting and expensive, also gives you a number of victory points. You draw 3 cards, and it's worth 1 victory point for each curse that you have. So that is the one thing that makes the curses not so bad. Some new monsters, again, Egyptian based. I'm not going to read what every card does because it would take me too long. Just feel free to pause the video and you will be able to see what each card does. Maybe I'll stop on the ones that look a little more fun. Like this one, I like the art very, 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 very much. You also draw 4 cards, but alas, you get a curse. Ring of Wishes, choose 3 times from these. Money or boot, and remove a curse. Again, pretty good. Some new monsters. Also, when it arrives, you roll the pyramid die, the mummy goes around. Very interesting card. If you have at least 2 gems total in your play area and discard pile, you take a secret tome, which is 7 victory points. Sweet. Tomb Robber. A really good card, not too expensive, look at that, and gives you a lot of good stuff here, some victory points, and also if you have an artifact, boom, 2 coins. A weapon, the Daring Explorer, not so good as a card, very expensive for what you get. The main thing is that, of course, there is this effect here, which is annoying. At least you don't have to worry about it if you buy the guy. More monsters, actions that give you Clank. Rebel Mystic, very powerful. I would say, quote unquote, broken good, maybe. But if you get this guy early on, can be a big advantage. It allows you to teleport to an adjacent room, so you don't have to worry about all the bad stuff that happens in the connections. Speaking of, I talked about a new connection I forgot to mention. Is a connection that gives you curses. Right there. Like that one. You teleport, you don't have to worry about that. And if you have another companion in your play area, you also draw a card. The Rebel Burglar. That lets you trash, where is it? Lets you trash a Burgle, one of the initial cards in your deck. Gems, Stone, Simeon, Doomsayer, the Thrill Seeker, Death Mask, Staff of the Ancients. More gems, Royal Bodyguard. If you have a crown, those you buy at the market, you may ignore icons in tunnels this turn. Pretty much is like teleporting. The Bullwhip, Blessed Fountain, and I think that was the original gem that I showed you. There probably are a couple of more cards, but I think this gives you a sense of what the new cards do. I like this expansion quite a bit. I find it pretty enjoyable, quite fun. I don't know that it changes Clank radically, so I don't know that I have a lot to say in general about gameplay. It doesn't change Clank substantially. It gives it a new angle, rejuvenates it a little bit, reinvigorates it by keeping it interesting. If you played the original Clank to death, now you have more cards, you have a new place where you're moving around, you have a couple of new rules. So the mummy, sometimes you run from it, or you hope that the mummy doesn't come to your area, and some other times you want to go after the mummy because you want to get an extra advantage, some extra money, or you want to lose some curses that you got maybe from the mummy itself. It's very, very nice. Sometimes the mummy gives, sometimes the mummy takes. So it's basically still Clank. I don't think it's gonna change anybody's opinion about the game, which is perfectly fine. Some expansions are needed because they need to fix a problem in the original. This is not one such expansion. I think the original was perfectly fun. I'm perfectly fine. And this one, again, in case you played it to death, in case you like this theme. And I like this theme. I like a theme that is still fantasy, clearly, but it has more of an angle, it has more of a personality. It's not your standard high fantasy. It's a hybrid between elements from our world and this high fantasy world. It becomes a little more campy, because now you do have classic fantasy and you have Tomb Raider's references, you have Indiana Jones references. So it just makes the theme, which was already had a humorous approach, it makes it even more humorous. And it is just fun to have to learn all of the possibilities and tricks and challenges that have to do with new maps. It's great to have 2 new maps. To me, this is really is the heart of the expansion. It's fun to have the cards, but it's also, and the mummy and the new cool die. But that is what I care about. I want to have a place, a new maze of chambers and connections to explore, to exploit, to figure out how to be always a step ahead of my competitors, or a step behind, meaning if I get a smaller treasure and then I run out and I get everybody else stuck in there, that's still perfectly fine. So it has all of the advantages of the original Clank. It is a small detail that maybe not everybody will like. It does have a direct player elimination. You may die when everybody else is still playing and you're kicked out of the competition. But that also triggers the end of the game, so the game is not gonna last long after that. It happened to me once to be the one that was kicked out while everybody else was still in there. But they were pretty deep into the play, so I was kind of actually excited to see what would happen to them. It was still fun to see them scrambling to get out of the Sphinx. I think we were playing the Sphinx side. So it had all of the personality, the flavor of the original Clank, the general mechanics, the general pace, with a different theme or a different variation of the fantasy theme. So in general, if you like the original Clank, I don't think you're going to have any problem with this one. I think you will enjoy seeing the things that you liked now from a different perspective, with different art, still with very good production values. If you're not a fan of the original Clank, I don't think this is going to convince you. This is going to change your mind. In any case, for anybody who enjoyed the original Clank, I think that the Mummy's Curse is going to be a very nice addition to the original set.